I see you shiver with anticipation.
Tension is a powerful tool. It's often the setup that primes us emotionally or narratively for what's about to happen. In visual storytelling, it's the beat before the scare, the breath before the punchline. It keeps you on your toes, steals your breath, tenses your muscles, makes your butt cheeks clench. Most often, it's a kind of promise. Something's coming, something meaningful, something big.
It's the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
And in visual storytelling, that feeling isn't accidental.
You know what? He just left.
It's built moment by moment through sound cues, camera angles, timing,
First try.
and the rhythm of movement. All pulling you towards the inevitable.
Pull the lever, Kronk.
Both horror and comedy rely on this emotional setup and release structure. In both, anticipation is essential, because fear and laughter are two of the strongest emotional reactions a story can provoke. The bigger the build-up, the more likely you are to jump out of your skin, or laugh so hard you go red in the face and can't even make a sound. So what techniques do horror and comedy actually use to build that anticipation? In horror, it's the slow turn of a head, the creak of something off screen, the shot that holds too long, making you doubt what you're looking at, like the frame itself knows more than you do. It's the sudden stillness in a room, the sound design thinning out until every breath feels loud. It's a close-up of an object that suddenly stops feeling harmless. A door handle, a child's toy. It's the way the light shifts, the way shadows stretch, the way someone pauses mid-sentence as if they've just heard something you haven't. It's what you see, what you don't, and sometimes it's a trick of both. The expectation of movement when there is none, or the reveal that something was there all along, hiding in plain sight. Compared to horror, comedy uses anticipation by building tension not to terrify, but to surprise, or subvert. Don't get me wrong, horror misdirects too, but it's usually followed by a scare. Don't even get me started on how many cats have low-key jump-scared me. In comedy though, a long pause might lead to a punchline instead of a scream.
You always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said!
A character freezes not because they're afraid, but because they're about to do something incredibly stupid. Where horror lets tension snap, comedy lets it pop. In animation, this is called aiming, when a character strikes an exaggerated pose that signals something big is about to happen, and then either nothing happens, or the payoff is hilariously underwhelming. It's also used to exaggerate motion, like the classic revving up in mid-air gag, where a character runs in place before finally taking off. Making people laugh requires perfect timing built upon anticipation. Whether that's for a pause before a punchline, that beat of silence where the audience leans in, ready for whatever's coming, or breaking the fourth wall, when it holds just long enough to make it uncomfortable or hilarious. Anticipation sets up a certain outcome.
You're black! I'm gay! We are so dead!
And then the joke either plays into it, or yanks it in the opposite direction. Like in Madagascar, Marty finds a phone and tries to call for help. There's a pause, then... That anticipation to misdirection is exactly what makes the payoff so funny. You see the exact same thing in the Cornetto trilogy. In both Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, Simon Pegg's character has to travel over, or through, a fence, each time with a different outcome. So by the time the final film rolls around, the question isn't if it'll happen, but how it'll be made funny this time. Actually, Scratch that, sometimes we do know the how, but the build-up is so funny, so obnoxiously predictable, that the final beat still feels completely worth the wait. But here's the thing, all of the examples given relied on motion, sound, or colour. And that's exactly why I'm making this video, because manga doesn't have any of that. So how does something made of still, silent panels create tension strong enough to make us laugh, flinch, or freeze? Well, you turn the page. Manga may not move, but it controls tension. It doesn't have music, but it builds rhythm. And it doesn't need a jump scare or a punchline delivered out loud, because the timing lives in your eyes, in the silence between panels, and in the space before the next page turn. The page turn is one of the most medium-specific tools comics have for controlling timing. It's not like film or animation where the creator sets the pace for you second by second. In comics and manga, that jump scare, or that punchline, it lives on the next page. That delay, that tension, is something no other medium can replicate in quite the same way. James Tynion IV, one of my favourite comic writers, put it like this.
Comics is all about pacing. I mean, the closest we have to a jump scare is a page turn. What you can do, however, is introduce something that stays under the skin, an idea or an image. You can then linger on it and control how much the reader should linger. That is how you get emotional pacing.
That's exactly why the page turn works so well. And it's not just for scares, it's also a punchline delivery system. It can be terrifying or hilarious. It's all about how you build up to it. In horror, the page turn is used to withhold the image. You build anticipation, unease, dread, then flip. The reveal hits you in an instant. Think Hideout by Masasumi Kakizaki, which nails this with a cinematic sense of dread. In comedy, it's the opposite. The page turn delays the punchline. The build-up might be a character's reaction to something off screen, a suspiciously repeated action, or a weirdly long focus on one panel. That tension is the joke, and when you flip the page, bam, the payoff hits instantly. It's the same technique, delaying the emotional release by making it physically hidden until the reader flips, but the result couldn't feel more different. So, to illustrate that spectrum, I'm going to show you two ends of the scale. Horror manga, specifically by Junji Ito, the undisputed king of the genre, and comedy manga Yotsuba, which is hands down my favourite comedy series. Yotsuba's ice cream scene is a perfect example of how powerful a page turn can be. On the first page, she's gleefully teasing Yanda. Then, without hesitation, Yanda takes a big bite. Yotsuba is left staring in shock, silent, holding that injured cone. But it isn't until you turn the page do you see the blinding rage Yotsuba is going through. She stands alone in a storm of black static, emotionally destroyed, and some would argue, aura farming. The mood shift is instant and hilarious, and it only works because the reveal is hidden on the next page. Now, contrast that with Ice Cream Bus, one of Junji Ito's lesser known but deeply disturbing stories. The story is slow and dreamlike. A father returns home to find everything oddly sticky. His son's shoes are at the door alongside many other children's, but the house is eerily silent. No greeting, no laughter, discomfort simmers. Then you flip the page, and you're hit with the grotesque imagery of his son smiling and playing among the melted, gooey faces of neighbourhood children, all of whom are dead. The page turn doesn't just show the horror, it delivers it. And while the page turn is essential to building anticipation and delivering a surprise, it's not used all the time, because if it were, the effect would get repetitive. The scare wouldn't land, the joke wouldn't hit as hard. So instead, manga often builds anticipation through visual composition and rhythm. This is where panel layout, repetition, negative space, and timing come into play. It's all about how your eyes move across the page, how long you pause, how fast you read, and what you're drawn to linger on. The pacing of the panels acts like a visual metronome, speeding up or slowing down your experience depending on how it's arranged. In horror, this rhythm is often slow and deliberate. Creators use repeated panels, symmetrical layouts, and vast empty spaces to stretch out a moment. For instance, a character might stand frozen, framed in the same pose over and over again, inviting you to notice what's changed, or more unnervingly, what hasn't. Each panel feels like it's holding its breath. The stillness drags you forward panel by panel, but nothing breaks the rhythm, so you start anticipating the worst. That's what builds dread. Another way manga builds anticipation is by making the last panel before the page turn deliberate. During a scene in which at Atelier, Coco's expression suddenly shifts in the last panel. Her eyes widen, sweat beads on her face. Whatever she's looking at is off panel, unseen. This works because of rhythm. That held expression, framed tightly in its own panel, creates a visual pause. It slows the reader down, just enough to feel that tension before the page turn. It's another way panel timing shapes anticipation, not just with layout or size, but by choosing exactly when to let a moment breathe and when to make you flip. Comedy uses the same tools but for the opposite effect. It builds tension just to break it. One of comedy's most iconic tools is the beat panel, a silent pause where a character stares blankly, often deadpan or confused. Dungeon Meshi does this constantly. Someone says something ridiculous and the rest of the party just stops and stares. No words, just stillness. That pause becomes a part of the punchline. These still moments stretch the rhythm just enough that, when the punchline arrives, it feels sharper, more sudden and more absurd. One of my all-time favourite gags is when Fuka gently calls to a kitty hiding in a bush in Yotsuba. The moment starts quiet, almost touching, until the page turn reveals it's a crumpled plastic bag, not a kitten. And then that beat panel takes up most of the space on the page. Or in another instance, when Yanda prank calls Yotsuba, the panel revealing he's the culprit is fairly detailed, while her reaction panel is completely bare. The lack of background pulls all the focus towards her furious little face. This use of negative space, especially stark white backgrounds, enunciates the humour by isolating the emotion and letting it speak for itself. Another way manga manipulates time is by slowing the scene down, expanding a single gag or moment across many panels or even multiple pages. In Yotsuba, there's a scene where the endlessly curious 5-year-old stumbles upon a can of black paint. From that point on, nearly the entire chapter is dedicated to watching Yotsuba make a mess. It starts small, then it gets worse, and somehow even more worse. The manga stretches this one incident over page after page, letting the chaos escalate in real time. You know she's going to be in trouble when her dad finds out, it's obvious, but that's the joy of it. It's predictable, it's realistic, and it's hilarious. And it works because of how long the scene is allowed to breathe. If it had been crammed into 2 panels, the joke wouldn't have landed. The comedy lives in the build-up, and it's the drawn-out pacing that makes it work. Even without motion or sound, comics are masters of timing. Once you start noticing how that timing works, how a joke, a scare, or even a pause is carefully designed, you begin to see just how much control creators really have. So if you're thinking of making your own comic, keep that in mind. Whether you're going for a laugh or a moment that leaves someone breathless, timing isn't just about what happens next, but about how long you make us wait for it. Hey guys, thanks for watching to the end of the video. As always, I want to give a massive shout out to people on Patreon and people who are now a part of the YouTube memberships for supporting the channel and helping me out. The funding of those 2 specific things in general helped towards this video because I had to spend a little bit of a penny just to buy manga, to read through it, to scan through it, to annotate it, to cut it out on Photoshop and then to animate it. Bit of a long process, but it's worth it. I absolutely loved working on this video. Horror is my favourite genre in general, even outside of manga. Absolutely love horror, and I haven't really covered the genre that much on the channel, so it was just nice for me to read through horror manga that I hadn't read through before. I don't have much else to say other than a massive thank you obviously to you guys for watching, a massive thank you to anyone who likes, comments, shares, retweets on Twitter, what have you, anything and everything that just helps push the video forward on the algorithm. So I appreciate that a lot. But yeah, other than that, I'll catch you guys on the next one.